CIA.
Hey. And welcome to Operation Grow Show and tonight's special edition, which is going to be the Great Debate. Well, we're titled the Great Debate. We'll wait and see. The jury's out yet. Wait till it finishes and then be the judge of that. But on the ethics of plant breeding, the show is hopefully going to be a really interesting one. The idea behind this is really more to create a discussion point, get people talking about it. The rules of the debate are quite simple. We have two teams randomly selected to represent two sides of the argument, and both sides will be presenting their arguments. The MC for this evening will be Stu Duckweed. You can see how much organization in terms of the greatness of this debate. I think we have Duckweed. Well, on the panel of judges, we have Duckweed, we have Fumidor, and we have Kino joining us on this episode. So they'll be the panel of judges, and I think it's between them. They'll be emceeing it as we go along. The two teams are the affirmative team, being Genetic Memory Farm, Raptor, and Tyler, who hopefully will be able to join us, but is currently unavailable. And the opposition team is myself, Lefty's Farm, and Mr. Bagseed. I tell you what, without further ado, let's just have a quick, hey, how's everybody doing? How's everybody keeping up? And then we'll get started. We'll get into it. So on that note, hey, just quickly, Raptor, how you doing, sir? How are things going?
Doing pretty well. Very excited for this debate. We've been talking about it for a couple weeks. So yeah, glad to see that it's been progressing forward, and yeah, it's brought up many interesting thoughts on, like, I've just been sitting on it, and also just our private conversations as well. So yeah, it should be a good one. In terms of what I've been up to, man, just super busy in my house. There's been some construction going on, so I will keep myself muted and make sure it's all copacetic. Nothing, no. I made sure to check before we even did any of the lives that wouldn't be an issue.
Cool.
So yeah, that'll be good. I'm doing yeah, just got a lot of stuff that I would love to get started on, but there's the work being done in my house, so I have to wait till basically Monday to do everything I want to do, because everything came in the mail that I wanted. I'll be
Nice.
getting my tent to start to start a veg tent, so I can participate in the breeding,
Cool.
the grow off with the breeding and everything. And yeah, that should be pretty good. I would love to show it off once it's all set up.
Nice. Quickly then, Mr. Bagseed, how are you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Very good. Very good.
Thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here and go over these good topics and stuff. Yeah, I've just really been hanging out. We've been hanging out, watching some movies in my room, and just got a press, so we've been doing some pressing and learning. I'm learning that whole deal, so it's been fun. But yeah, glad to be on here, and it's good to see everybody.
Fantastic. Yeah, maybe in the after show we have a little look at what you've been pressing. That'd be excellent.
For sure.
And GMF, buddy, how's it going?
I can't complain. Just kind of excited for this. I think it'll be a lot of fun, at least, for those of us who really enjoy this. I hope everybody finds this to be a fun little mental and, emotional exercise. So, I'm doing excellent. Like I said, just been looking forward to this day to kind of see what everyone ends up thinking, what kind of feelings and thoughts we end up stirring up with everyone. Because again, this was done completely as an exercise. I don't think any of us have really settled, except for maybe one or two, on where they really feel. But even then, I think there's room for conflict in, reasonable debate, especially internally.
Yeah, it's going to be a good,
it's a healthy
fun
debate.
exercise. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And we should all have, feelings on both sides, really. I mean, that's just to be expected with human beings. We have the dichotomy to be able to hold conflicting feelings. And that's really what makes us powerful. but also, susceptible to problems.
Yes, excellent. And Lefty, sir. Oh, the odd one out. You're muted, buddy.
I said I'm always the odd one out.
How are you keeping? Good?
I'm good,
Ready
man.
for the debate?
Sure.
Keeping
I'm
off
ready
that
to go.
hash blend joint from last week.
No hash this week, man. I got to keep my scruples about me a little bit better today.
Yeah, I gotta make it to the end.
I always make it through. It's just what condition I'm in at the end.
The lights are on. No one's home.
Sometimes.
Cool. And then, Keto, how are you doing, sir? Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
I'm good, mate. Always a pleasure to be on here. Thank you for everyone for the invite. I do love listening to everybody here. So yeah, to be asked to come and judge, it'd be pretty cool, man. So I'm good. Thank you.
Excellent. And Fumi, perfect timing.
Sorry about that. Probably going to be quiet. My internet is perpetually awful these days, so I'm happy to be here. I guess I'm going to be listening into the cool points and the fun ideas. I'm actually undecided on this. I've said it before that I don't really. I see kind of both sides of protecting the plant breeding and also kind of letting the seeds go when they leave your hands, kind of letting them do what they will. So I'm curious what the guys have to say about this. I'm sure we're not going to solve the problem forever and ever, but at least we can kick the ball down the field, or at least, get a first yard, whatever, something. You guys don't know what I'm talking about anyway in England. We can hit the cricket ball through the goal and maybe with some hockey pucks and go for it, horses. Anyway,
exactly. Tally-ho. Oh dear. And
Right on.
Mr. Duckweed.
Right on. Cheers, everyone. Thanks, Pete, for having us on and this great debate, so to speak. It's definitely a topic with dipping the toes in, and at least making people aware for who wasn't aware of some of the goods and bad, I guess, when it pertains to like seed breeding and genetics and that kind of stuff. Seeing that, I think I heard some news that some state or the US in general may have gone federally legal or some crazy stuff like that. I may be totally butchering that. But
the House
yeah.
just passed a bill. It's not legal yet because there's the Senate and the President and all this stuff, but it's a big deal that the House has never passed that weed legalization before. So you're right on that.
And I'll chime in. That makes the Senate all the more important in this upcoming election in Georgia, January 5th. Those two seats that are up in Georgia will determine whether or not the Senate is able to follow suit with the House's bill.
Ooh, so quite a topical time for the topic.
Right on. So yeah, you debaters ready to fucking debate? Oh, sorry, excuse my plural language.
And also just to let everybody know that for a number of us, this is the first time doing some kind of formal debating, so do bear with us while certain things are tested, knobs are tweaked, and bits and pieces are perfected. And so without further ado, we shall hand over to the embassy for the evening. Duckweed.
Right on. Cool. So basic rundown on how this should go off. Keyword should go off. We would definitely hear from the affirmative side for at least like 5 to 10 minutes, where they would present their initial arguments. And then same goes for the opposition, 5 to 10 minutes, same situation. Then they basically go back and forth for like 5 to 10 minutes each, maybe three or four times, I guess. After which we'll have a little break for both parties to do their talking and whatnot, and for the judges to have a little smoke and whatnot. And everyone else, I guess. From there, we'll have the opposition speaker doing his or their rebuttal. After that, the affirmative speaker will conclude the rebuttal. And then, after that, yeah, it's basically on to the closing. Opposition speaker will begin closing their argument. Same with the affirmative speaker. At that point, I guess the judges, who are myself, Fumido, and Kino, cheers to you guys for joining me on this. Yeah, we'll just sort of calculate a score based on a score sheet we have here. And yeah, we'll just carry on with it from there.
Right, and then after we've done that, we'll open it up to, as I said, open it up and people in chat that can join in, and it'll be good just to get the general discussion going. So yeah, let's rock on.
Right, so who the affirmative side is, I believe it's...
I'll be leading off for the affirmative.
Right, GMF and his crew. So I guess we'll hear from GMF and their please, and their side of things, how they look at it and what they have, what are their thoughts.
Thank you, Duckweed. In our current time, the course of the evolution of cannabis markets globally, from federally legal hemp in the USA to federal legalization of cannabis in countries such as Canada and Uruguay, many more countries are changing their attitudes toward cannabis, resulting in the commercialization of cannabis on a scale we have never seen before. This will necessitate a framework that supports standardized contractual agreements that can be faithfully and diligently executed and enforced. This standardized system already exists in modern horticulture and plant breeding, readily available to our maturing market to adopt in the pursuit of acceptance by a wider commercial ecosystem. Legitimacy that is provided by adopting standards and practices is not only the gateway to access, other associated markets, be they financial, what have you, but also to social legacy policies that protect the people who do the work to provide the building blocks that we all come to know and love. That's how breeders will eventually have healthcare and retirement. When Breeder X did the work to supply a primary and unique genetic, given that they have filled the required registered unique kind of DNA fingerprint, not a sequence, just a fingerprint, they have earned a royalty that should not be carelessly disregarded, which it has been, legitimately earned by all terms of, modern horticulture, agribusiness, and even ethics. As someone I know is very fond of saying, they put in the donkey work. They put in the work of doing it.
Yes.
Raptor?
Thank you so much, EMF. The standards that would need to be adopted are outlined first by the need to use a recognizable and verifiable DNA fingerprint, not a sequence, to allow the original owner to have recourse in protecting their due royalty for their work in commercial operations. And those subjects are legal to terms in place. The standards that would need to be adopted are outlined second by the need to use a standardized buying agreement that delineates the use of a product between commercial and retail use. A pack bought under the terms of retail use should be labeled for such use only and not to be used for the commercial gain. This ensures that not only is a particular genetic marker not entering the commercial market without verifying royalty compliance from the retail market, but it also ensures that anyone who purchases under a commercial license is contractually guaranteed a consistent product. This delineation of markets is based on license type at purchase.
I'll take over since Tyler isn't here. I'll fill in if that's acceptable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Right
please
on.
go forward, GMF.
Ultimately, and in the absolute simplest terms possible, by having rules that we can all read and understand in an open and regulated market, we all benefit. If you sell for retail, it should stay retail and not show up as someone's breeding stock or production stock. Conversely, if you sell a seed for commercial use, it should not show up somewhere packed in retail bags for sale. The course and the recourse and remedy for that is readily available as part of these standardized agreements. This is nothing new. Look at the back of any kind of package that you buy, and you'll find that on opening it, you have many different agreements. The ability for an individual to work and develop something unique enough to be, to warrant value in the market and recognition is only going to be protected when applicable legal frameworks are there and can support, a robust and rigorous system that is fair and equitable to anybody who employs legal recourse, regardless of how much money they have. A nonprofit could potentially actually supply the structure necessary for impartial, affordable testing and verification of DNA fingerprints. But again, this is something that we would have to actually create and agree to as an industry. I think we're handing over to the opposition.
Right on. So yeah, I guess the opposition would be Pete Bagseed and Lefty. So now we'll hear those guys' views on why they believe such. Pete?
Yep. So we're opening with Lefty. Will be opening from our side.
Right on.
We've never followed the horticulture and plant breeding market standards. The corporations of the wider markets have always shunned us in all other ways and never stood up for us. The corporations have only ever exploited us by charging more for anything for our market, turning over personal information to law enforcement, taking our money, and firing us as employees from big corporations that we work for, even in legalized states. By adopting their standards and seeking their approval, we are simply opening ourselves up to all the restrictions that corporations can try to impose through legal frameworks. We have only ever faced persecution under the legal system. Not once do we ever have evidence of the legal system benefiting our community, much less defending our community. Ultimately, any proposed system that is enforceable would require a DNA fingerprint system. Consenting to any such system is not only an invitation to exploitation, but ultimately endangers the freedom we all value and use to breed and grow as we choose. Inevitably, as soon as a license or right is created, it will be treated like any other precious or finite thing and become another thing to be bought and sold, ultimately to the benefit of the few who can hoard or control them. Any system we buy into as a community that is less than totally free will be ultimately lawyered against us as a community. I'll pass it to Pete.
Thank you. Yeah, and generally as a community, we've always, when it comes to the quality of genetics and who has them and what people are doing it, we've been policing that ourselves through our own best practices. People that produce bad genetics, people stop buying their stuff, and so we kind of, we're voting with our dollar already. We're already deciding and driving and governing the market from that, and we are able to set the bar for products, which the illicit market's been doing quite successfully for a very long time. This is really nothing more than just another carefully disguised sort of stealth tax that will actually deny startups the opportunity to enter what is, an emerging market, and one where, it was built on their hard work and dedication to begin with. These small guys put in all the hard work, and somehow these big corporates will suddenly be able to cut them out by claiming genetics of theirs, etc. Ideally the genetics should be treated a bit more like a recipe, but not so much like necessarily a trade secret. This is how you make.
Pete, are you part of the con or the pro? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, I'm opposition.
Got
it. The genetics don't really belong to anyone. All of the strains that are around today are really essentially just the result of a handful of landrace strains. And as such, no one person or entity can make actually any real claim to them. If you're in it for making money, you make your money at the time of sale of the product. And if you feel, and it's within a product you feel strongly enough to actually want to sell to other people, something you have enough confidence in. And the market will decide if you're good enough for them to actually pay if you want to do it commercially. But, that's just it. The plant is essentially free in regards to no one owns it, because nobody really knows the origins of any of these things. And on that, I shall hand over to Mr. Maxseed. You're muted, buddy.
There we go. Sorry. I had it clicked on here instead of my mic. Well, unless the system is able to credit or enumerate the original source of landrace genetics, local and indigenous tribes, the system being proposed is fundamentally flawed in its goal to protect the source of original genetics. The system caters only to those who are financially able to be a part of that club. So, that's kind of what you were saying. So,
and that draws our side on that round to a close.
Right. Am I muted too? Okay. Right. So I guess now the affirmative side, which would be GMF. It's funny having Pete on the other side, right, for me.
All right. Well,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, GMF. Yeah.
I'll say my opposition raises some excellent points, especially some areas for concern. But I think that we can address these things in favor of the resolution. The attempts to recategorize the breeding work as something other than intellectual property, however, such as a recipe or a trade secret, is entirely inconsistent with the wider horticulture and breeding market at large, and in fact, any kind of agricultural business that's conducted in general. It kind of is not, that's not really the path to acceptance to these wider markets and these wider things that we could use, like being able to use a bank. Those commercial terms can be very simple. It can be set as a boilerplate contract or customized as needed, per the transaction. It doesn't matter. We already do all these kind of special conditions with sales of things anyway. This would essentially ensure protection of the individual to royalty right over the lifetime of an originator, much like we do with a song or something like that, and not as property of a corporation or trust that might keep something in perpetuity. The idea of creating a licensing system is that we can ensure that eventually the intellectual property, no matter what it is, will enter into public domain. And after some predetermined amount of time, that originator's death or the corporate entity or legal entity no longer exists, et cetera, we can actually set the rules going into this to make sure that it doesn't end up being exploited over a lifetime. We can set the rules going into this to benefit who we think is deserving. Raptor, if you wish.
Yeah, great points. This system can be prevented from running amok by simply requiring that a licensed fingerprint be held by either an individual for the duration of that individual's lifetime, or conversely, if it is held by an entity other than an individual, it must exist on an equivalent expiration period, but not indefinitely. This cannot be, passed on through the generations. My children's children can't be owners of this. They can only be associated from my work if they choose to do so. This system will also require that individuals are able to access recourse without undue cost. This can be simply and easily achieved by creating a geographically chaptered nonprofit organization that holds the DNA fingerprint testing and certifies verification for registration, and in cases of disputes. So this is just us talking amongst each other and getting the ball rolling. We need to communicate with each other. The more we ignore this and have that outlaw mentality, it's working against us. We're all working against us. So we really need to change our attitudes and realize what's coming. By using this conventional system, any grower, big or small, who does the work to develop something that is minimally distinct in DNA fingerprint can register and protect their work. So this fingerprint system does not just protect sellers. The buyer is guaranteed not only the genetics that was represented, but that is viable at particular rate for anything else that should be conditionally requested in that transaction. Sex ratios, expression traits, etc. So affordability and fairness are not barriers to entry as long as the standards are widely known and accepted as standard, and the practice through to non-for-profit organization. Land races are not a problem for this type of proposed system. In fact, the system can also be used to contribute to the origins of these land races. We all use by creating a charitable body that secures funds collected for using their land race strain. So this system can ensure that large producers cannot avoid paying what they owe to the small producers who develop the genetic building blocks that people make millions on, even if it is a regional land race. GMF, please take the reins.
Well, and I think Raptor raises a very good point. With a nonprofit license holding structure, multiple people can even hold a legal claim to unique fingerprint. You know, a lot of people right now, that's what they have, and they may or may not even know it, but you can even divide that among multiple people. That redundancy, that sharing amongst our community is kind of part and parcel of what we do. Now it would just be registered and you'd know who it actually has a claim to. You know, when a particular fingerprint is employed and the license is paid, it can be divided amongst all the licensed holders. At the outset of this organization, it will be common that multiple sources will have legitimate claims to similar fingerprints. You know, this is also the possibility that a unique fingerprint could arise from two locations based on someone, you know, for some reason breeding something similar or something like that. You know, this is at least a fair way that you could handle everything from compensating land races to people who both have the same thing. You know, illicit markets have always and do exist currently with normal markets. Every sought after good is subject to being knocked off by an ambitious counterfeiter. You know, rather than being an obstacle, it is something that this organization could proactively approach by providing, you know, a proof mark or a fingerprint. You know, under this system, the nonprofit could actually be a legal entity capable of protecting these license fees. So making sure that local indigenous areas get a cut of the profits of the stuff that came from them, making sure that the small guy that spent his entire life working on a particular project, yeah, he might actually be able to retire, or he might actually be able to get medical care when they're old, or she. So I don't know, it's a tough road to hoe, to use a term. And I yield to my opposition.
Okay, I guess so. Now we'll hear from the opposition on their side of
Yeah. So over to Mr. Bagtine.
Muted.
My bad, man. Just didn't I have noise in the back. The idea of someone wanting to deny a person the right of an income from what is freely available in nature is laughable. more fundamentally level, it's denying someone the right to food and standard of living. A pack of seeds is sold as such with the intent that it should provide someone with the means to an income, food and medicine. It's in a very spirit of the whole movement, which the plant should be free, really. You know, that's what I'm getting at. We should only be encouraging the entrepreneurial spirit, not stifling it with like regulations and bureaucracies and the advancement of cannabis from what was, 20 years ago to what it is today is being swapped, selected, and used in ways that it's not possible under the proposed system. And the market will become bland with a small selection to work from. So that's kind of what I'm covering.
Right on. Anything else from you guys?
And over to Lefty.
Yeah, we we produce more than enough food globally, but our demand that people pay for it, even though they require it to live, is a fundamental cruelty of our past. We only still engage in it. We have been fooled into believing it is necessary and that this suffering, this gatekeeping is good for society. This creates the fundamental generational inequality that persists today. You can make money on lots of things, fine, but we should at least be compassionate enough as a supposedly intelligent species to feed and heal each other, both of which cannabis does, without exploiting each other and making each other suffer for just basic human dignities. Creating any system where one side can afford to pay lawyers and scientists, and we as lone growers and breeders hoping to one day enter the legal markets have to be able to fend off their challenges as unrealistic at best. And hold on, I lost where was that? And the purposeful tactic to trap the community in a game it can never hope to win at worst. Much like other areas of patent law, 75% of patents are overturned upon challenge. And it is this corporate power structure that is doing the challenging against small patent holders so they can capitalize on their loss of intellectual protection.
Does it?
On, regarding some of, in sort of comment to our opposition was saying, we're not the same as the other markets, so why would we want to do things the same way that they are doing it? Right now, we're seeing economic collapse happening everywhere, and it's a clear indication that the way that economies are structured and the way of doing things doesn't necessarily work. And the way to succeed, not just in this, when we're talking about it being, we need to do things differently. So why can't we have a totally different approach and do it for free? The encouragement to be able to give people, that right to work, and by removing any restrictions, you should be able to do that. And as my colleague, Mr. Baggs, he'd had to say, we've got advancements to where we are today, thanks to the ability to just casually swap genetics and move them around and do what we like with them. We wouldn't have half the stuff that we are fortunate enough to have access to today. And the mention of, redundancy, true redundancy doesn't come through this regulation. The true redundancy and to maintain the diversity of the plant is to keep it out in the general public's hands. So nobody has any rule control over it whatsoever. And therefore, if we really do want to keep things redundant, let's make sure that they stay in the hands of the populace. For the concept of licensing and it being successful, if you look at the music industry as an analogy for it, in the way that, sure, maybe it started off with good intentions, but it eventually, it rips off the artists to the point where they're getting nothing, and it's just the organization that was set up to protect them that's making all the money at the end of the day. And if lessons are to be learned of anything, this constant drive down to commercialization is something to be avoided. And and we should try and step away from it as much as possible. And on that, I close my statement.
Right on. So on that note, I guess we'll maybe feel sorry for them. I don't think they spoke enough, but they probably do deserve maybe a little smoke break or maybe a sip of water or something. I don't know. What do you guys think, Fumi? Kino?
Thumbs
Right
up
on.
there from Fumi.
Right on. Yeah, so I guess we'll go to that break for you guys. I don't know. I've been smoking all along, so I'll just continue to sit here and smoke.
What
After
you
the break,
smoking on,
though,
duckweed?
yo, mama.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
damn,
puffing
duck.
on some Gosoji that I grew. Yeah, sitting pretty nice. I don't know. It keeps outing on me. Guess it's one of those. Not that I'm complaining. So yeah. After you guys get your stuff sorted out, we'll go to part 2, where what? Your rebuttals. Yeah, that's what it seems to be.
Sorry, I
So,
didn't know
yeah.
I was
Believe so,
muted. then.
sir.
I was replying but muted. Sorry.
Bastards, not listening to me, just talking over me.
This happened last night.
Sorry, man. We were just ignoring you completely.
Yeah, so I don't know if we can if we're gonna get what the judges take on what's been going on so far, or what they've been hearing.
Yeah, this is a bit mind blowing, isn't it? I didn't know. I knew what it was about, but it's just very difficult because I know that not everyone is particularly what they're saying is not what they're going to believe in. It's obviously a debate for that reason, but it's very hard to score it, knowing that with your own beliefs in the background. I mean, yeah, I've been making notes. I don't know if it's that time for that, but
Yeah.
it doesn't make no sense, does it? I mean, the affirmative approach to it, but I just don't see how that's possible. But as far as the debate's going, scoring on how we're doing it, yeah, it's pretty close for me, for both, on the basis of the debate scoring. But I know where I'm definitely sitting on which side, personally, which I'm trying not to do with scores. So,
and also, just to be sort of clear for what the context of, I mean, I think I realized I forgot to say that at the beginning, or maybe I did, I can't recall, but it was, it's to do with the intellectual property when it comes to you're using these genetics for the use of commercial. So I buy your pack of seeds and I spawn an empire off the back of them. But I'm deliberately buying them to do that. It's strictly for commercial use, and kind of that whole malarkey that goes on with that. So that's
that plays to anything in life. So if they're playing with the 1% of people that would do that, then the other 99% get punished, because you take away all creativity. And if you go back, I mean, we get to talk to a lot of old school breeders, and I mean, the gene pool that created a lot of the old school strains that everyone knows and loves, there's probably 10, 12 strains that will work with for an extended period. Where do you draw the line? Where does the line get drawn on something like that? That's where I'm at. Who then owns the rights? Are we going to trace it right back to land race? I really like the argument about giving.
Yeah, so I guess Pete, you could get back to discussing with the team, and I guess me and Fumi and Kino I guess we could probably carry on that same line of discussion while you guys get sorted out. Fumi, what do you think? Where is the line drawn at that point in time? Where would you think the line should be drawn?
It's a fucking fair question, I have to be honest, because you have so many different kinds of breeders. You have people like me who are doing it, at least for the moment anyway, for fun. I have no idea what my future plans hold. There's so many people like that. They're basically, dude, what do you want? I'm just fucking growing. Like, what's the fucking pressure here? Sort of sorry, it's beeping. Grower friends or grower colleagues or whatever to behave differently. Jesus Christ. My internet connection is unstable. Sorry, guys. What I'm trying to say is there's different kinds of breeders. There's the native breeders, so to speak, at least in my mind, that I'm thinking of right now. There's the native breeders, the people who actually created the land races in their places. And that could even be they created a local Humboldt strain or something, you know, like a couple of fucking farmers out on a hill somewhere, and they grew there for 20, 30, 40 years. They created a strain, let's say, and then somebody comes in and swoops that. Then on the other hand, you have people who are professional breeders who are doing it all day, every day as a living. Lemon Hoko, Rasta Jeff, whatever, Exotic Mike, and those guys have a specific one. And then you have these guys who are basically just cracking some shit together and see what sticks. And all these licensing agreements, I've never, by the way, I've also, on top of this, never heard any, how do I put this? I haven't heard even one structure, the whole conversation for what the licensing agreement would have. So we have, I guess what I'm trying to say is you have all these different groups with all these very different kind of needs for any kind of protection for themselves. Like even a backyard breeder who's just doing it for himself might want protection from big corporate who's going around doing crazy things, you know what I mean? But we haven't talked about that. And we haven't talked about the native guy in Africa who created the original strain that became Durban poison, on and on and on. That guy's never going to get credit. So yeah, those kinds of things are missed in these discussions. Now, I want to say with all of that, just because we don't have the whole answer doesn't mean we can't come up with part of the answer. So that's important to mention too. Just because we can't credit the guy who created Durban poison or whatever, Malawi, something or other, just because we can't go give him a check doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to give, I don't know, Rasta Jeff or Pete or Raptor when he starts breeding. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to give them protection and a check, you know what I mean? Anyway, I guess I babbled for too long, but I have those questions while we're talking.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, it's a perfectly good argument, but like you said, where does the protection come in for the smaller guys? You know, for the yeah, like fuck, like you said, man, like myself, whoever it may be, where does that protection really lie?
Lefty said it, man, gatekeeping, right?
Yeah, exactly. Fuck.
Where do I start breeding? Once all these fingerprints are out there, where do I get my genetic stock from to start breeding in 3 years' time if I plan to do it? Do I have to work
and if
with
they're
genetics?
protected by a license, you won't be able to.
Exactly. Or am I going to? Or are we going to be given
Or
stuff
you're
that
gonna
no
have to
one
pay
wants
for
to
it,
breed with?
some ridiculous amount,
Or pay
some
money? What, for
ridiculous
me
fee.
to put 4 plants in a tent and throw pollen on them? I mean, I get it, but it's the same. It's what kept coming into my head here, which is probably crazy stonerful. But it's like dogs. I mean, they all come down from very few genetic lines, but one. And like I said, where do you draw the line as to when the first different breeds started popping up? And then is it really fair that we can then turn around and say, all right, so no, 20 years ago, you don't count, but you do count from today. But I do get it, because I know of another breeder that refuses to do regulars because they had 6 years of their life stolen, or 6 years work stolen by someone doing it. And the problem with that was someone used the regulars to breed the strain, and they didn't put as much time and care into it, and that strain ended up getting a really bad name. So he put 6 years into it to produce this purebred strain, and someone else basically got the regs, put them together, started calling it the same strains, even though it wasn't under the same breeder. It was the same name, and we all know that as stoners and growers, you start hearing bad stories about a certain strain name, you're probably going to avoid that a bit more than the next strain. So I can see both sides to the argument, but it's just a can of worms, man.
Yeah, definitely.
So many factors to this. I really like the land race approach, though, taking care of the people. If not the people that made it, the people from the areas. I love that side of it.
Yeah, because most definitely, like if you're gonna go down the route of the affirmative and want to have these things protected, then those people in Afghanistan, those people in Pakistan or wherever these land races come from, the world should be basically paying quote unquote royalties to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it also would make preserving these genetics and keeping the areas that they grow naturally and these land races are found pristine. It's the same as wildlife. It's not a nice. I mean, I'm completely against hunting. I know it's different with some people. That's a different debate. But there's arguments for the way that they breed, and they can breed stock because of hunting and game ranges in South Africa, because they're able to keep species alive by doing so. If there's a value to local areas keeping these land races alive and not replacing them with a more profitable crop or business, then I mean that benefits us. that benefits us sitting here. I'm over in the UK. There's nothing here that grows naturally, but I mean, of course, I would like Australia and Afghanistan to be protected and to be there in its entirety and originality for the rest of time. Might not always be the case. So it's a load of, as I said, there's so many factors to it. I'm actually quite blown because I was going to listen to this debate anyway, to be asked to be sat here, but it is mind blowing. I'm on both sides of the fence at the moment.
Yeah. So
I'd like to hear some more.
The other thing I have is, so I'm just trying to be even here. What protection really does the backyard breeder need? I mean, he's gonna buy a next pack of seeds and pollen chuck and push that out anyways. So what protection does he really need? You know?
Yeah, no,
It's a fair question. If he's not actually making any money on it, then what's the problem? I guess we've heard people go. How do I say it? Companies have gone after people, especially in. I guess if I'm going to say, how do I put it? Don't expect the reasonable stuff when you make rules. Expect the unreasonable shit. So, for example, in the old copyright stuff with music, a lot of like grandmothers and teenagers and like random people were getting these takedown notices from patent trolls or legal trolls, basically, who were going around the internet finding people who downloaded a couple songs of Nickelback or something and suing them for, a settlement, basically trying to extract settlement money. So in that sense, you could get some a breeder group, basically. Let's call it a breeder group. Charitably, it'd be basically like a trademark or a copyright troll group that would basically buy up or license up a bunch of small breeders. For example, it could buy up a bunch of small breeders who are too small to really advertise on Seeds Here Now or anything else like that. And they, as a group, might even have a chip on their shoulder. I'm just totally making up a story right now. But that copyright troll or trademark troll could go around basically sending takedowns to every single grower, breeder, Instagram grower who's ever done anything, who's had maybe the other day I had just as a joke, I put a couple buds with seeds on them. I mean, the seeds were there on purpose, but the seeds were there on my picture. A breeder could come along and say, well, you're breeding with our strain, and send a takedown notice to that person. And it would be frivolous, but that person would still have to address it. So like I say, when you make rules, you have to remember people will misuse the rules because the rules are there. They'll use the rules as a tool to use against people. You know what I mean? So what kind of protections does a backyard guy have? I don't know yet. You know what I mean? Like the backyard guy should be able to do whatever they want to do. But I mean, when you change everything else, that will end up affecting the backyard grows.
I think it really
vague, I realize, but
I think it really comes down to end user. What's the purpose of what the end user is going to do with it? Is he producing it to put it to market? Is he going to do like what you guys are talking about, just growing forward to 6 plants in his backyard, chucking a little pollen on them to throw out to his buddies? What's the end user going to do with that product? And I guess that's where the delineation and the standardization is going to have to come in at, is like you guys said, where is that line going to be at to break it from the backyard guy who's not out to make money with it, but just to have a little fun with it, to, corporate's going to blow it out in a 1 million square foot facility. But yeah, it's all going to come down to what the end user is going to do with it. And that's, it's all about the money in the end.
Right on. You guys ready to rumble again? I know Peter's ready. JMF, you guys ready? Or you need some time again?
I'm ready. Just waiting for the thumbs up from Raptor.
Ready? Right on. Well, yeah, let's kick it off again, I guess. So this round will be yeah, so we'll hear their rebuttals. They will attempt to defend and reinforce their arguments, as well as defeat or overcome any supporting arguments without adding any new information. So yeah, we've been going. Hey, no threats. You may be disqualified. Yeah, so we've been going GMF and then Pete and so we'll go GMF again, you guys.
Well, actually, in the order, opposition is supposed to go lead off the second round. Yeah,
all right, sure, no worries. So go ahead, Pete.
Alrighty. Yeah, I mean, I do think what my learned gentlemen on the opposition have presented is it's an interesting discussion in the world of fantastical thought. It's essentially an impossibility to implement. It just is. It's we're kidding ourselves. How far back do you go? Do you go back all the way to the very first guy who created this? At what point do you draw the line? How do you implement it? Where does it start? I mean, it is the Leviathanal task, defined as such by it being just too big to be approachable. At the same time, under the guise of trying to keep things going, it's just going to stifle creativity. We're going to just end up with the Coca-Cola, or worse still, the Cola brand of the commodity, of the product. And people are going to be unduly prosecuted, and people aren't going to do it anymore. People are just going to get out of the business, and we'll lose a lot of that great creativity. The entire spirit of the movement that got us to where we are today, the fact that we can be sitting here talking about this, was with the whole concept that the plant should be free. It does the entire movement a disservice to even be considering trying to figure out a way of regulate it and put it under control. And as such, I applaud to the judges to use your moral judgment in terms of not stifling people's ability to have a job, have a right to an income, the plant should be free. Keep it as such. With such, I yield and hand over to my learned, somewhat gentlemanly types on the other side.
Ready, Scott?
Apologies, was muted. In order to protect all the ranges of growers from this humble small grower to all the way up to the commercial scale, where it's being distributed statewide and very possibly soon, throughout our nation. So we're going to be introduced to a lot more industry, a lot more money's going to come in. So they're going to be ruthless about it. If there's no barriers, there's going to be nothing to protect any of us. They'll take everything. So it really needs to be agreed protection amongst all of us. They're not going to stop unless there's a wall to stop them. And if we build that wall together, like that, we said, no, you can't go any further. We already decided amongst all of us that we need to work with each other and not, be competitive and have all the freedom that you want to look into genetics, but also give credit to those genetics and make sure that those people have a way of continuing on if something happens to them. And it's not just stolen from them. All that work, the decades of work, would just be completely stolen at the drop of a hat if we don't have something agreed upon already. So, do I just we go back and forth, or should I just do a final everything?
I don't know if the opposition wants to counteract that with anything they may have.
Yeah.
No, I think we were going to go to. I mean,
You're fine. You'll take that
I'm
wall.
fine.
And,
Mine was my closing statement as well. So.
Yeah. So you'll take that wall. You'll take that wall and be satisfied.
Yeah,
That's
tell you
what I
what,
was
the
gonna say.
opposition has presented nothing that I find worthy of responding to. Take it away.
Okay. I guess in closing, I'll just lay out 3 basic facts. Fact 1, there are larger market players and forces now that have never been applied due to illegality. That's actually protected us from the Monsantos, the Archer Daniel Midlands of the world. Second fact, impending legal markets will mean that our only possible recourse is going to be a legal one. No more of this outlaw mentality. It's not going to work. And the third fact, the only way we're going to compensate the communities that have built and preserved this plant is a nonprofit organization that can collect funds and actually benefit those communities with schools, roads, hospitals, things that they just don't have even, governmental money for in most cases. But we as a community can make sure that we pay our karmic debt. Pursuant to this, if we do not write the rules of our own industry, they will be written for us and imposed on us. If we truly object to the way that our community has been treated historically by legal and financial markets, whatever, then it is our responsibility to be mature enough to set aside egos and attitude and to actually work together in a legally binding framework. If we're to live up to our purported ideals of community and devotion to the plant, we owe it to ourselves and those generations that come after us to be willing to voluntarily bind ourselves to a fair and honest set of agreements that favor the future of our community, not just individuals, that will protect those communities that did the work that got us here. That's it.
So, great. Well, on that note, do the judges need a moment to confer amongst themselves, and then the rest of us can talk about stuff, and we can actually start to open it up. I mean, I do at some point want to open this up to everybody in chat can jump in if they want to, and we can just talk about it in general, see how we want to do this, or do people still want to make a few more counterpoints? Although I think we've had our closing statements now, so we're kind of done.
What is the structure of this? Do you wish to have a winner here, or do you wish to have this kind of be the beginning of a longer form discussion? It would be fun to have somebody in the chat. I don't know if anyone has the balls to do it. Hopefully they do. Balls or lady balls for that matter, to come on and maybe ask questions. Because it would be interesting to hear more. I have to be honest, I would like to hear more about me personally as the judge. I'd like to hear more about the proposed licensing program or the proposed open sourcing program. We've heard people talking about in the chat, kind of both. I think we've danced around the point, or you guys rather have danced around the point on both. No real licensing scheme has been suggested, only kind of vaguely a licensing scheme. Many licensing schemes are immediately co-opted by the very powerful, and immediately, to prove Lefty's point, would basically create a new oligarchy. On the other hand, open sourcing can be abused or even kind of left to rot. So I would personally love, you guys don't have to do this because I'm just a judge, but I'd personally love to hear more about that. But I'd also personally love to hear some questions from the audience or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are really good points. And I actually think what we could probably do is move this into, like, we could have another one of these where we can actually, like, maybe debate the pros and cons of, like, how would you do this kind of licensing? Because it is it's a deep topic in its own, how you would go about doing it. We can spend hours talking about that. Personally, from the debate side, what I have found interesting is having to take on the approach of the opposition to what I would normally be. So I want to get in the discussion to talk about how licensing and that would work, because from the pro side, I have some ideas on the implementation of how that would actually work and how you would go about doing it.
But I just laugh at it.
So that's what I'm saying. If the debate is over and everybody's judged on what the debate, because we've made our closing statement. So if it's for the sake of just a helpful laugh, just gives everybody some pointers. If the judges had scored it, or where we ended the debate on the closing statements, I think, we now open it into this general discussion about how would we approach these kind of licenses. Because I think now it's people can free up and talk from their perspectives and what they think, and bring those to the table. And on that note, I will actually. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Duckweed.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just like add on to what Fumi was saying. Like, it's such a fucking deep and intense topic. You can't really put or pass any sort of judgment on such small little bit of information in such short time. You know what I'm saying? So, like, like honestly, if I would have had to pass some judgment here on this right now, I definitely go straight down the line, like straight down the middle, because there was definitely not enough information, and it's just because we are so time restricted. If we could have gone on to like 8 hours, um, yeah, it would have been a little more fruitful. So that's just my opinion, my take on it. I don't know, Kino.
Yeah, I think that this is such an in-depth topic, and I think it's such an important one that maybe we come up with some ideas to do these. I'm not saying regularly. I know it must be a lot of time and effort going and getting everyone to talk about it, but some of them points, like how would you license it? How would you go about doing it open source? Having a debate on that itself, maybe having then deciding factors based on a longer term point system based on much more in-depth conversations. But I know which side I'm sat on, because listening to one side of it is like listening to what I would be saying and the people that I know being small-time growers. But I think, yeah, a lot more, I think more detailed discussions on specific, really important points. How are you going to license this? How specifically, I know we said about the DNA fingerprinting. How does that even get implemented? I mean, if I've got a plant from a bag seed, do I have to go get that tested to see what fingerprint that's got, if it's got one? And you see what I'm saying? This is a really cool, very interesting debate, and the topics in it. I mean, I've done the scores as asked. I have them, but that's based on the debate, and they're based on exactly what was said from each person in the debate. But that doesn't necessarily where I sit either, which is quite strange where it's come out. But
hey, we're all the old school crew, man. There used to be a fucking winner. If you came second, you were just the first person who came fucking last. There was no you took part. It's like, oi, slow coach.
Let me
Just fucking
nails
Twinkie down.
Kino nails an interesting point for the future. We should kind of dial into that. Not only do you have to potentially worry about licensing in the first round of, let's say, seeds or clones, but then you have to worry about the second round of seeds or clones, or bag seeds or clones. You know what I mean? If you get something mysterious and it comes from a friend, maybe a friend gave you a cut and says, oh, this is some fucking fire, grow this. How do you know that it's not something that you're going to get pinged on a licensing fee down the road? Let's say a friend gives you, my friend Stevie, he got a cut of blueberry sativa in a dumpster in Seattle. Let's say he gave me that cut. Maybe that cut is a bad example, but maybe he gives me a cut that he picked up somewhere. And I grow that, and a couple of years later, I think, man, this cut is fire. It tastes like blueberries and blackberries and this and that, and it's amazing, and I'm going to breed it to something. And then wouldn't you know it, I actually start to sell seeds because it's so fucking fire. And someone does a DNA test and realizes, oh, that was ripped off from so-and-so. The cut literally came, the guy was a worker at the warehouse. He took it home with him, blah, blah, blah. He literally snuck it in his, jacket after work and took it home and then gave his friend that cut. It was an innocent gift that was actually, started by a theft, and now your entire industry and your mortgage and your family and everything else can get torn down. Is that potentially something that could happen with these kind of licensing things? These unintended consequences down the hill?
I mean, I think part of this is, okay, so when it comes to the licensing side, the agreement, it kind of works like this. It's retail, so not for non-commercial use, so it's personal use. You can do whatever the hell you like. And I, as the seed breeder, am making, I mean, this is kind of the thing. It's kind of establishing that from the seed breeder's perspective. And again, take it from, it's federally legal. And I realize it's federally legal in Canada. It's, USA is kind of heading down that direction all of a sudden, rather accelerated. Suddenly you're going to have, it's a regulated product like everything else. You're going to have regulated packaging. So like on the back of the packet, every packet has, this is a non-commercial opening, this is agreement to the terms. It's very basic, it's a very simple thing, but it also means right now, unfortunately, what you can't do, interestingly enough at the moment, is defend it in a federal court because it's illegal. So we haven't really seen that happening in the federal system yet. But as soon as it does, you can start to defend. Oddly enough, from a plant's perspective, what does not occur in nature, there's not a nature classification that you can go for the patenting of a plant. What we were talking about, the licensing. So the breeder would say, okay, look, this is for commercial use. You can grow these seeds at home. You can pollinate, cross-pollinate. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can give them to your mates. That's fine. But, don't use them in a commercial venture. This pack of seeds, on the other hand, is sold with, yes, you can use these commercially. There's a different set of agreement that because you'd actually get into agreement with the seed breeder at that point, probably along the lines of, I never want to see these things turn up in the retail market. I want exclusivity on these seeds. So I don't want to see these turning up in the retail market because for whatever reason, you've grown the fire for me and I want exclusivity on that. So that would be the commercial agreement there.
So I have a question.
Now, sorry?
I have a question. So say a breeder takes two other breeders' packs, works them into his own line. Does he owe those breeders any royalties? I mean, he's made a new strain. So
again, it would depend on how those breeders supplied. I mean, it is, this is not an overnight thing that we achieve overnight. This is a 5-10 year process to build up a framework, get people on board.
Opinion on that, though, is what I'm asking. What's the opinion on that? Do they owe him money, or is it just something new that he created? Like somebody was saying, where do you start from?
I mean, oddly enough, you could almost treat it a bit like the pharmaceutical, how Europe will do pharmaceuticals. So like take ibuprofen, Nurofen and ibuprofen. They did all the R&D work on it. They get 5 years where they have exclusivity on that patent. After 5 years, it's open to everybody and everyone can go hell for leather with it. Right. So if you create the new one, what you do is you owe them something for 5 years or whatever, and then it's over. Then it's all gravy, baby.
But it's not a new ibuprofen. It's something different that has ibuprofen in it. It's ibuprofen and aspirin mixed together. Do you still?
But the guy that licensed them, technically speaking, if they sold it to you under the agreement that yes, you owe me something if you use this in a commercial venture, then yes, you'd owe them. But remember, this is down to season in agreement. It's just that they've sold it to you under those conditions, so it protects them and it protects you. It's to keep it actually keeps the little, in my opinion, it actually helps protect the little seed breeders from the big corporates coming in. Having this framework in place and that's ready, that allows you to do it. We talk about DNA fingerprinting. It's becoming something super, super fast. I don't know if you've just recently seen the advancements of AlphaFold 2, which has now been able to do protein 3D folding, which is something that is considered like the holy fucking grail. And this is computing technology that is coming through, accelerating the advancements here. Look how we produced a vaccine in under 12 months. It's, yes, collaborative work, blah, 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 but things that would take 3 days to compute take 2 minutes to compute now.
Collaborative technologies. But yeah, collaborative work, but let's be real, the advancements that we've been getting at. So yeah, I'm 100% agreeing with you, Pete.
And if you look at the horticultural market at the moment, I mean, I can talk about the UK horticulture market. There is registration of a plant. In the US, you can register an apple. You actually patent the apple's name, and that defines the not found in nature species, because you've bred it as such, and you are protected. If somebody, at least nowadays, if somebody took that and copied it and called it, this, we take Fumidor's latest creation and I call it Pete's latest creation. Currently, as it stands, if I did that with apples, they can take Pete's latest creation, sequence it, take Fumi's latest creation, sequence it, and go, wait, you fucker, that's just Fumi's latest creation. You're in the shit. You're not allowed to do that. It's protected by, because remember, we're talking a federally legal, it's just another fucking plant, people. It's nothing different all of a sudden. In that sense, in the terms of protecting it as a plant species, it's just another plant and afforded all the same protection that comes with what is already in place.
Yeah, papayas, strawberries, mangoes. We have varieties that are protected, and then we have new genetics coming in that are not protected.
Yeah. And if you release new plants into the market here, new seeds into the market in Europe, you have to show that they're unique, that you have put in the work to be able to claim that it's yours, that it's not just somebody else's work. Somebody will quite happily agree to it and say, sure, you can use it. Here it is. And that's what you want, because it means when they come butthurt 6 months later because you sunning yourself in, the Caribbean on your big yacht, or whatever. Tough shit, mate. You said I could do whatever I wanted. Here's the agreement. Now go away.
Yeah, there needs to be protections for that, and just the opposite. If somebody was just using someone's fucking work and not giving anyone credit, we all basically collectively agree, like it's an unspoken but spoken agreement. Like we've heard many breeders doing that. I don't like that personally. And I haven't met one person that's like, oh, that's fine, except for the ones that are just popping the seats. But the breeders that I talk to, they're like, ooh, that I don't feel comfortable doing that. I wouldn't do that to someone else's work unless I already said or had a conversation with the breeder and saying, hey, I'm interested in your work. You do great work, and I'd love to balance it out with my genetics myself. And if they agree, then great. If they don't, well, you need to do some more homework on other genetics, and you also need to do some more work on your genetics too. If you're looking for something, it's all there. All the genetics are there. We just need to work them long enough to find it and isolate it. It's yeah, it's about not letting the people that did 10 years work, get screwed over, and someone who did a year or two's work come in and say, oh, that was all me. Yeah, so great.
It's like the artisanal bread makers who lose out to when the mass production bread kicks up, who can just pump out loaves and loaves and loaves of bread. It's all Freddie bland, generic stuff. But there was nothing to protect them from it happening. I'm not to say that this would do it, but it's kind of, a similar thing. It's like, well, you've got to somehow stop. And this, again, is this, let's change the way we do stuff. Let's try and think of a new approach. We don't want the big corporates, because this does stop the big corporates muscling in. We can turn around and go, hey. As I said, they'll tear us apart when they realize, oh, there's no structure here. They'll just rip it apart.
Well, that goes into, I believe, Underground brought up the question, like, where do I fit in? How do I get into this? And it's like, well, first off, we're writing protections for you to be able to get in. So this is what that discussion is implying as well. It's so many small things, like you mentioned before. It's so much to talk about, and yeah, we should start with the small people first. But also keep in mind, there's
no new problem here. It's not a new problem, it's an old problem. There are lots of solutions to this, and I think we can all actually recognize the failures in a number of the solutions elsewhere. We don't like the way Monsanto does shit by how they track it and go, well, if our crap pollinates your field, you're in the shit. Like, no. So we can put within the context of the framework, we can put in protection against that kind of stuff. You can actually write it out of the framework. You can make sure that you enable that this stuff doesn't go back suddenly 5, 6, 7, 8 generations. You're only ever going back one. You're only ever paying the guy or gal one behind you. I'm not going all the way back. And you can't pull me over and say, hey, this thing has got stuff from 7 generations ago. You owe that guy something. No, I owe the previous guy. If you've got a problem with what happened, go and speak to him. Because if he hasn't paid the royalties, he's the one who has to, and so that's how it works.
It's my problem, Pete, with that, and not a problem, it's part of a debate with it, is someone could spend 7 years making something and making it, as what Raptor said, and that's their work. But 99% of people are not working with Landrace, so everyone's working with someone else's work. So it's like I say, where do you start? I don't want to keep going back to that point, but that's the reality of it. It's right for someone to say, I've put 7 years into this. And look, I'm on the small breeder. I am on the opposition. That's where I'm sat. But they started with someone else's work. So what gives them the right to then tell me that I can't use their work? And I wouldn't do that. I'm saying it as an argument to the debate. Everyone's working with someone else's work. Very few people, probably in the under 1% of breeders everywhere around the planet have actually got something that they've worked with that no one's ever seen before or no one's ever had their hands on. So what you're working with, someone's put that years in. Someone's already done that for you to have your fire strain. Now I can't touch your fire strain because I need to use your license. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's coming down to, again, that whole thing of it being a legal market where you're going, okay, where I can pop down to the nursery and I can pick up a packet of White Widow seeds next to the chilies, next to whatever, treating it at that sort of level. Because it's legal, so when I'm selling seeds into that market, there's regulation that comes with it to ensure that it's quality that's going in, that I'm not actually fucking the gene pool over. That's really, unfortunately, our gene pool has become royally fucked over. So these other ones actually try to protect the gene pool by saying you can only release things into the market that are new, that are dissimilar to what's already there, so it doesn't muddy the waters, kind of thing. But that's only at the commercial level. If you want to cross chilies at home and make all sorts of wild, crazy varieties and give them to your friends to play with and do wild and crazy things and cross it, that's totally fine. And then that's kind of the open source model. The open source model is, while it's for non-commercial use, personal use, or charitable use, etc., it is free. The second you start using it to make money, here is the standard agreement. You pay accordingly. Unreal Engine do it as a games development platform. Right up to the point you can use it for free. You start selling your game. When the game hits a certain amount, you owe them 5% of sales for going forwards. So, these models exist in other industries, and we can pull them from elsewhere.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. But the reality of the situation is, and again, we keep going back to the same thing. Where do we draw the line? And if you have to go down that route of royalties and all that sort of stuff, then you should definitely get back to those, like I mentioned earlier, those landrace countries, and start paying them big royalties before you even think about paying other breeders, because essentially that is where everything comes from. You know what I'm saying?
Everything comes from somewhere at some point. So the sensible thing is you introduce it as, okay, as of this date forward, this will be it'll be done at a country level, for instance. So let's say country X goes, this is what's happening. So on this date, we invoke it. There is a 2-3 year amnesty window during which period all old packaging is gotten rid of. It gives people time to cut over to it. But anything that is now produced during this period has to have the new packaging on it. It's how regulation works. You get told in advance when it's coming, and then you start to adhere towards what needs to be done. So at that point, then, as I said, this is not an overnight pull the switch and, hey, it's in place. You then do, like the cut over to Europe was, Europe. How do you get all these countries to adopt one currency? Yeah, it was a fucking bitch ass move to try and do. It's pretty difficult, but you can get there. It takes 10 years of planning. And slowly introducing things and bringing bits and pieces in line so that suddenly at 5 years in, 6 years in, the framework's there, everybody's operating within it, and now it starts to kick in. So there's always that sort of grace overlap amnesty periods to roll these things out.
But this is an idea that I'd like to see implemented on a very short discussion and limited information. The same as music or something with like YouTube rights. If you're using someone's music video and you're allowed to use it for copyright reasons, you give them credit. Wouldn't it be? And I know this wouldn't happen, but wouldn't it be a nice world if everyone agreed that was the case? At least that way you could look at a pack and say, right, I've got this brilliant seeds from Fumi seeds, but the original breeders were duckweed and peat seeds. The duckweed and peat seeds, obviously, the quality's there. Fumi's done a brilliant job and he's bought us a brilliant strain, but I know that the quality genetics, I know we can do that, but that side isn't really regulated, and I think we all know that breeders will take, to try and not have people copy their strains.
They're definitely going to open up the black market.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was about to get to. By doing this, you are going to open up black market breeding.
Yeah, but that always exists. I mean, every market has a counterfeit, has a black market. And look, let's also say that remuneration doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. It could just be in recognition that the packets have to accurately label. I mean, maybe that's just step one, is packets accurately label whose stuff was used. Because as you say, if Fumi's making fire from other people's source genetics, they like what Fumi's doing. Fumi's got the eye for pulling this together, but at the same time, they might say, hang on, I'm going to go and buy some
of this Fumi guy.
From
ripping people's stuff off, man. That doesn't sound good.
But they might at the same time go, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me try some from that other guy's stable." So he does get, that originator gets a kickback because people know where it came from, where it's being used, can see the result of that being used. So that recognition alone keeps food coming in, keeps your mortgage paid, etc., etc.
That would be the nicest way to do it, I think, for everyone involved. But it's not going to happen again. You have to play. This is what I keep always. It's my famous saying: play to the 1%, because 1% of idiots out that won't do it anyway, and they'll probably lie where they got it from, so people can't try and recreate their fire. But that's unfortunately the world that we live in. But just giving people credit. If you give people, I know that if I find a strain that's real nice, I done 3 strains, and I worked out that right down the line, going back through a lot of research, Black Domino was involved in all 3 of them. And it put me to sleep, this strain. So, Black Domino's on my hit list now because of that. But it's the same. If I know that decent strains have been produced by using peats and duckweed genetics, then obviously I'm going to want to try peats and duckweed genetics. So it does put food on the table. It does keep the traffic going up to whoever it is, the followers, whatever, however it works these days for breeders to, obviously earn money and be out there. But that's a nice way of putting it. I don't like everyone being regulated under one law, and that's not the rebellious side of me. That's just, I don't like that.
And I wouldn't necessarily say it's like it's almost law. It's just a way of having this framework so that we know how to operate with these guys. Because I think to me, that's what's scary. Is like it's still sort of got this rebellious sort of attitude, and it's like it's going to bite us on the ass. Unfortunately, as much as we don't agree with how certain things are done, these guys know how it's done. So it's like, okay, if we can present them with a reasonable framework, that boom, they'll just, all right, cool. It's not worth the effort. And it stops all the infighting as well. I mean, you do see a lot of the infighting. I mean, I hear rumors of there's lawsuits on the go now over people using this, using that. So it's starting to happen. And everybody's really cool about it up to the point where it's their shit. And then being cool steps out the window.
That's too right. You can all have a go at your stuff and not my stuff. It's true. But do we do in the scores? Because I don't know if the guys putting it together would have wanted the scores. I don't know how much time went into putting it together.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested for guys, the judges. If you you've got your totals for each, I guess you just we won't look. You can chat amongst yourselves.
I'm supposed to do mathematics. I need to do some mathematics.
Tally.
And it's up to you if you guys even want to share your scores. You can just have Duckweed share them all if you don't want people to know.
Unanimous.
I was just asking because obviously I know you put a lot of time into organising it, and then we just went off. I would really like to see it. Would really like to see more in-depth discussions on the single points. I think that would be really, really interesting.
I think the idea would be, I mean, from an academic perspective, what we'd have to do is organize a series of debates.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, on a specific topic. Each one, kind of using, for lack of a better term, a round robin to try to get to resolution. So that's what you would do is put 2 opposing views on either side on a board, create basically an academic debate tournament, go through different topics until we get to a final debate, which will have all the other background information having been covered in the previous debates, so that your final debate is trying to actually find resolution. But this is something we'd have to do on that's a monumental scale.
Yeah, I just think I think you'd see some strange patterns in the scores as well on the different aspects.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's coming. As I said, the interesting thing about that is they say you can't patent nature, so you just go, yeah, but this doesn't occur in nature. Find me this in nature. You won't, because it took 15 years of careful selective breeding to create it. So you don't find it in nature. So you patent what is not naturally occurring, which is a really odd loophole around the whole patenting nature problem.
And even if you start with someone else's work, once I think you could easily establish, just a guideline once you've gone through so much alteration through either, stabilization or whatever. Once you've created enough differentiation, it's yours now. You don't owe anyone.
And the solution is going to be technology. It's going to be the fact that you can get stuff. Again, I mean, that's what will circumvent the black market to a certain extent is, your buddy's saying, oh, it's Blue Dream, well, I can take it to a place and get it tested, and it'll go tell me straight away, whoop, yep, that's Blue Dream, or no. It's actually X, because all these strains have had their fingerprints, not their sequence, their fingerprints registered, and it can suddenly actually catalog what it is that you've got, or how close to it is. So if it's, got some relatives in it. But that technology is here already, pretty much, I'd say. At some point, it'll be doable from home.
Be mad. Imagine all of the dealers in the UK with their cheese strains. There's no cheese, man. Everyone's got cheese now. The home tests come out. No cheese isn't available in the UK anymore.
My little DNA test kit.
Yeah, Afghan Kush or Northern Lights or something. But it was cheese.
It was, yeah. Oh, it's just aged badly, mate.
Yeah, that's it.
You cured it wrong. Sorry.
Where even now everyone is cheese mad. It's mental. But yeah, it never is cheese. Until I grew cheese, I realised that I don't think I'd ever bought cheese before in my life off the street. But
yeah, hey Candy, how you doing, buddy?
Good, thanks, Pete. Guys, everyone, ladies, how's everyone
Cheers,
today?
Candy.
hello, mate.
He's clearly speaking to
Interesting.
Shipwreck there.
Interesting. I came in late, so yeah, it's early in the morning here, 7 Sunday morning, but it's a hard debate. As I said before, it's where do these come from? It's different here where I am, obviously, so what I work with is what I've had, and then perhaps any beans that came in the mail. But it's obviously not a commercial thing. But, I've been trying to find out lineage here, and it was really the hippies that were here. And, I'm only in my 50s, but these guys in the 60s and 70s, they're the ones that really started all and moved to the places. And it's a bit like Humboldt, where all the hippies were there. What were they growing there? They were growing seeds from brickweed, right? And then someone heard about in India there was these little smaller plants that grow up the mountain, so they toddle off over there. It was the same thing. It was brought back here, so I'm still trying to work out where. We had stuff from PNG. PNG. New Guinea gold, and does that come from? Where did that come from? Is that someone coming from Colombia originally, or we can't test things, so it's a really, really well. Talk about a can of worms.
Yeah, it is a real. I mean, it is the Leviathan problem, right? It's big. How do we tackle it? And I think technology is the only way we're going to manage to do it. Oddly enough.
And the real problem is we've got to get ahead of that curve.
Mm.
Go ahead, Chipper, sorry.
I just had a little counterpoint for what Pete said. So like about the patent, like you can it didn't occur, or oh man, I'm too high for this. One sec.
You play poker. I've got a game starting now.
But no, like it didn't happen naturally in nature, but it can happen naturally in nature. So like I say, like if it was genetically made in a lab, you could easily put a patent on that, but it could happen in nature. So I don't know. It's kind of touchy subject, like everyone says.
I think it's probably more if you're saying, look, I took something from Afghan and I took something from Durban. Like naturally, these two never meet each other. This will not happen in nature. Yeah, it's like it's within a degree of reasonability. Yeah,
but with slight manipulation, it could.
Yeah, enough time, enough money, anything could though.
Exactly. But no, this is a good discussion, guys. Cheers to that.
And thank you to chat for finding this interesting, because that was kind of a worry, is would people like structured debate? So if there's interest in this, we can definitely put something, discuss something as a bigger project with a series of topics or something that's definitely arrangeable. So thank you guys in the chat for being engaged in this discussion.
Yeah, no. Hopefully,
Right on.
just don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.
Right.
Hey, Ben, nice of you to join us. Oh, that killed it.
Or not.
Yeah. We're just
What's up?
All good, buddy? Your connection's a bit...
I see judges giving minor scores and thinking, yeah, I don't know what's this. Nah, just kidding.
Right? Can I score negative? Can I give them? I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your.
You get Comcast points. There you go.
Yeah.
Negative everything.
If you vote for the right team,
Dude,
I'll
you
sort
don't
your
even want to
Comcast
be
out.
scored with the Comcast stick. Holy shit.
Vote for the right team, I'll get you a Skylink.
And
I'm
by
changing
the
my
way,
scores.
everyone, Operation Grow has put up the link for if anyone wants to come in and chat and talk. We'll be closing up, but also having the conversation continuing on. So yeah, we're just gonna be talking for a little bit, enjoying each other's time, and yeah, we'll get into it more. And
Cool. So I don't know if like Fumi or one of you guys want to just call it as you just see it there, how we just
What, the scores?
Yeah.
Go for it. You're the MC.
George Dawes with the scores.
I can't see Fumi's, obviously. I've done them privately, so that's on you, Duckweed.
Oh shit!
You got the accent
Damn
for it,
you
dude.
guys. Damn you.
And you don't have to say whose is whose if you don't want to, Duckweed. You can
Yeah,
just read
just-
the scores.
it could be anonymous.
Tally them up.
Just
and
read the
it's got
scores.
Two sides.
You could compare them in fun ways so that nobody knows what the score is. You could say Team Pete is sheep and Team GMF is goats. We would know what is what,
Yeah.
Or balloon animals. And people are like, I don't know, is that a winner or a loser? No.
Right. Okay, so that's
Zoom.
put a
No
little
pressure,
more
Duckweed.
put a
Hey,
little more
Secret City.
mathematics into this.
Just so you know, Secret City, we are still live on YouTube. So just to let people know.
Pete,
What's
you
up,
the
everyone?
opposer, right? Yeah.
Yep. Are you keeping secret?
Good, you?
Yeah, doing well, doing well. Hopefully you caught the debate.
Yeah, of course. I was listening to some of it.
Good man, good man. All right, so Duckweed, George Dawes with the scores. Over to you, sir.
Gotta roll that jump. Just right, so Pete's side got a total of like 59, to be quite exact.
To be quite exact.
Double check that.
Got somewhere between 58 and 60.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound too fucked up. And GMF ended up yeah, sorry guys, you need to do a little more convincing. You guys were 47 total.
Hey, for the opposition. I can't believe I'm saying it. Hey.
Well, and this is really the idea of a debate like this, is to get the temperature of the room, to really get a feel for where everyone stands. I mean, I'm conflicted, and I, argued both sides of this and have. So I don't necessarily feel like there's a good decision out there. Do I see a way that something could be implemented on a state-by-state chapter basis where you register your being and now it's yours? Yeah. Do I see the potential for abuse? Hell yeah. So this is a tough call.
The rulings are form. Now, how do you implement it in say a country like the USA, where different states have different laws just on the galley? You know, it would have to be obviously a state or federal. How do you say it with a federal-wide law? But, I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? I mean,
would it not fall under like the Department of Agriculture all of a sudden because it's federally legal? It's just like grain, rice, tobacco.
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly how it works over there. But it's
Well,
I mean,
that's
just curious.
if we declare our own rules, we don't actually have to necessarily. If we declare industry rules and we use an industry organization that polices itself, we don't necessarily have to go by traditional patent law. That's part of the idea of creating our own rule set before they get to it.
The only thing is they're going to do that within their own entity anyways. They're going to create their own stuff. And they're going to throw patents on stuff, whether we have our own community set up or not.
True.
I mean, we can do whatever we want, but if there's patent laws and they got things in place, they're going to do what they want, whether we have clubs, associations, or whatnot. You know what I mean?
So we need
associations
to organize.
And clubs just means we can hire lawyers.
So we need to organize quicker then. We need to organize, get our shit labeled, marked, patented, confirmed that's our crap. And we can confirm that our crap is free for everybody. We could actually say, I mean, now we get into this interesting idea of having like a blockchain licensing agreement where I can put my genetic fingerprint into the blockchain and say it's free. Nobody is allowed to use this. Well, everybody's allowed to use this. Nobody's allowed to own this and say that they own it. Nobody else can do anything. You know, I'm putting it in the blockchain. Here's the genetic fingerprint that goes with it. I'm releasing it into the wild. Go wild. Do whatever you want.
It's already
and that way,
it's already being.
You already own it.
Sorry.
In order to be able to say put it in the blockchain and anybody can use it, you'd have to own it first. So you already have to claim ownership of that in order to be able to say nobody else can own it.
Yeah. Or you could create a blockchain that proves the existence of fingerprints at a point in time. So if somebody 10 years down the line tries to claim it as theirs, you can go, no, hang on a second. There's a register of this fingerprint from 10 years ago against somebody else's name. So you have to kind of show how you did it. Again, it's something, you know, you need. It's not just randomly put things into the blockchain. They need to be verified and validated before going in. To prevent the shit getting muddied, it needs to be known truths. Excuse me.
You know, I have a question. This whole discussion, we've been kind of assuming, and honestly, all these discussions, we always assume that, so to speak, big corporate, you know, we never really have any names, so we just kind of speak abstractly. Big corporate, whoever that is going to come along, and I'm anti-corporate, so to speak, but a big corporate is going to come along and snatch up the genetics of the little guy and abuse the little guy. What if, on the other hand, big corporate, again, so to speak, you know, big corporate entities, big kind of breeding entities have no interest in that small genetic kind of stock and are already, let's say, running full speed ahead with CRISPR machines and bio this and bio that and sourcing individual landrace genetics that we haven't even heard of from some mountaintop somewhere that, you know, is only spoken of in legend. You know, basically I'm being farcical, but literally, like maybe they've already bottlenecked some crazy shit that we don't even know about in laboratories. I kind of assume this is true. And the real threat is actually when we license this stuff that will actually just get bought up by lawyers. Yeah. So in other words, you'd basically be hoisted by your own petard. In other words, what if the real threat in this circumstance is not from, so to speak, Monsanto or Syngenta or whatever, but actually from some lawyer in a cozy office in Miami who snatches up licenses from small breeders? Or am I being too hypothetical?
No, it's a perfect point because it's, you know, you got to get that licensing. You know, it's kind of going back to the Philo situation. You're sending your genetics in to get a fingerprint or to get sequenced. It's like, who's to say they're not going to take that and run with that themselves and patent it themselves? You know, there's a middleman to everything. It's like, what legality do they have? Do you sign a contract saying that's a no-no with them in the beginning? You know, there's so much shit involved.
Dude, that's the tinfoil hat there.
So much shit.
I mean, you can't go with the idea that everybody's going to rip it off. I mean, you have to have a degree of well, you see, this is the problem. I think this is a lot of us are Gen X kind of upbringing in this space. And the natural thing about having been the rebel, having been in total distrust of any authoritarian figure, considering what our hobby is, naturally makes us wary of wanting to get involved in what is seen to be the squares, the framework kind of structure thing. And we see it as the enemy. Almost, I mean, there's bits actually of big corporate that would work in its favor. I mean, I look at it, it's not so much that they get snatched up as like corporate procurement due diligence. They would actually have to say, look, we'd love to work with that guy. We love what they've got. We really want to go to business with him, but he can't tell us where he got the shit from. So we won't do business with him because we actually don't know where he got it from. And what we're really worried about is if we start working with it, somebody will make a claim against us. So sorry, small little guy, we won't work with you. We're going to go with somebody, the next little guy who can show this, who can prove it's their stuff that we're working with. They haven't been ripping people off to give us this product.
I'll take that one step further. I think if you're looking at, commodities and basically companies that have to produce commodities, they've learned that field crops are unreliable. So I think there is going to be a weird technological bifurcation in the market where the common weed you're going to be able to buy in a gas station in a little 20-pack of pre-rolled joints is going to be smokable hemp that's been infused with THC derived from yeast. And that way they can control exactly how much THC is in it. They can hit, exact kind of, profiles that they need to hit in order to sell under regulation. But that way it can be sold literally at a gas station, because growing field crops is just way too much of a crapshoot. Yes, you can blend to try to hit certain numbers, but then you're still stuck trying to constantly do that. Whereas if you are taking smokable field hemp, you're simply adding THC that you've created from yeast that are already available from University of Toronto that produce THC. You just have to feed them sugar. So that means the mass market of THC will either be in people that literally drink it like a beverage, where it's fermented in the beverage with a natural yeast, or it'll be something that's extracted from the yeast and then infused into smokable hemp. And then there'll be the other side of the market, which will be all the rest of us who give a crap about what the name is and where it came from and how it was grown, and will be the artisan side of the market. But I have weird ideas.
Buy seeds
Do
now.
we really even see, my internet's really shitty, so I just pop in.
Sorry, go ahead, Fumi.
Oh, I was going to say, I've said this before, man, I freaking love smoking joints, but I mean, I don't see too many other people doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm the only joint smoker that I know essentially in real life. So, there's some around, but not many. Like, are people really going to pick up hemp joints? I mean, I see Jim's point, but I was just going to say, like, maybe adjust that to, as much as I fucking hate to say it, but South Park calls them the pussy sticks, the little, the vape cartridges, right? Like
fair point. Vape cartridges,
vape cartridges with whatever. Honestly, it's abhorrent to most of us, but I mean, shit, it's reality. Soccer moms and so on.
Humidor, you muted yourself.
I think you're right, but I was also kind of mostly done. Anyway, that was about it. So soccer moms are going to be into that, and I don't know, random people that are not connoisseurs. Anyway, that's all I was going to say.
Yeah,
great point.
Marketplace is definitely changing.
Cheers, Candy.
Yeah.
I was saying, I was agreeing, like, just from my time, watching it, the marketplace has changed. From what I see now on YouTube, it's all about, or even Instagram now, it's all these guys extracting and getting, another CBT or another CBN or, another THC. And then they're splitting it. And, and you get this and you get that. So whereas in Israel, I think their whole beliefs was use the whole plant, and that's the whole medicinal thing, right, that we started from. So it's changing too. And what Jim F said, that's probably right. That's what it's probably going to be, and it's sad.
But it would also be nice, we get to know what we're actually playing around with. I mean, like organic Underground Organic saying, at the moment, like runts, nobody knows where runts comes from necessarily, but it's in all the new crosses this year, and it's like again, like, yeah. So how many of those is actually runts that was used? If it can throw me back. It's the double-edged swordness of the whole thing. Is I, as the consumer, can actually. It should be accessible enough so that me, the consumer, could take this and go and get it tested and checked and told, yeah, no, that is what it is. The catch with the illicit market is it can be used to abuse and fleece people who don't know any better. I mean, like Kino, you mention it, like in the UK, how much cheese is actually cheese? Just because someone says it is doesn't necessarily mean it is.
It's the same with a lot of strains. It's like I always say about, I hate to say, I'm not good with words sometimes. I think I might come across wrong, but unstable. A lot of these hype strains are bred with hype strains, You don't know what's in runts. You don't know what was in the one that went into runts. You end up with what have you got, and how stable is it? So yeah, that could be a real interesting side to the testing side. At least you'll be able to go back and actually see where our strains have come from. I just don't know where I'm at with it. So I'd like to hear a lot more information, a lot more debates on it, because it is. But as I say, to know what a strain was, where it's come from, and effectively which breeder, the majority of that stock's come from, that breeding stock, would be really interested, because then you can pay tribute to them and you can go and hunt down something that really sick. Look at it this way: we're all growing for medical reasons, whether we're recreational or not. You don't get stoned after work if you're just getting stoned after work for any other reason to chill out after work. See, I can't remember who said it. Someone said that. So to find strains that are now you get into the real medical stuff that will treat specific pain or specific illnesses, it would be really, really good for people to see exactly what's in there to try and track down something that might work a bit better for them. So I can see a lot of real good applications for the testing. I just don't see how it's going to work and what we do. Because let's be honest with it, how many different traits does one strain show? Realistically, I mean, obviously, I know there's pheno and genotypes, but how many different? I mean, how much of that of one strange trait are you really trying to dial in? Does that mean that then they get 10% of the trait that you've managed to express from the 4 strains? So 4 strains go into it. One strain's got a trait that shows 5% in that strain, and then you want to really try and isolate that 5% into your strain. So to me, it's madness even thinking about it. Doesn't mean I don't want it to happen, but how do you regulate that side of it? Just that side of it. I mean, there could be 8 strains gone into one strain, and if it's all started after regulations brought in, now you've got 8 royalties you need to pay realistically, because if you're going to test it DNA genetically, it's going to tell you that there's 8 crosses in that strain.
Well, so long as it was the 8 people whose genetics you specifically picked to do it with, and ask them, hey, can I use this? And they go, yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, cool. Yeah. No problem. Or they go, no, okay, hang on. You'll need to pay me some royalty on that if you want to use it. Then it's down to you to make the decision whether you wish to continue or not.
Yeah. How far are you into that by then? That's the problem. You could be 2 years before you've got what you want, and you realise maybe this would be a winner. I'll just see it. The right word's messy. I think it's a messy approach, but it doesn't mean I don't think it's right. Again, I would like to see people credited. I think would be the best way for me. Credited on the packet. This is what I used for this at this stage, and maybe a data sheet like you get in a packet of medicine from the thing. A complete data sheet be printed out and sold every pack of seeds.
This is what it contains.
Yeah.
Side effects are euphoria. The giggles.
Yeah, that'll do.
If the fucker brought it down too early, we're sorry. Side effects, fear weed.
I love that. I'll still be using that a lot. You need to coin that. You're paying your royalties for that term, fear weed. The bag of fear weed. No, I think it's a brilliant discussion. It just, to me, it's mad.
Yeah. But how so Kino is saying basically put credit to the previous breeder or whatever the case is on the pack. But how am I so sure that this runs is actually this pizza runs and not bad seed runs?
And there's the catch. There's because you're
exactly.
going
there
on.
Needs to be framework.
Yeah,
there needs to be a framework to stop that kind of bullshit that's been going on and fucking up our like everything we're working with. We can't have stable breeds if we don't even know what the fuck we're working with. I mean, we can make it stable, but how are we going to be able to work with that in the future or anything of the sort? It's just trying to avoid more of that.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
I agree. But I said this is where karma comes into it, and flipping a quick buck and longevity. I was talking to Spartan last night on our one, and this is exactly what we spoke about. So the person that's trying to flip something that's not really the real runts, or is a rush version of their version of the runts, they're going to get caught out eventually. And you know, and people after 5-10 years of their seeds being out there, you know, there's breeders that I won't use, and there's breeders that I will use now for that exact reason. Because I know that if I buy from this breeder, I know they put the time and the effort into it. So I know that we're going back to the old way it was done, but the old way always pays through. You know, it's karma. If someone is rushing something, then they're going to get caught out eventually for doing so. And if they're not doing it correctly, if they're doing it wrong, they will get caught out. And I see it all the time. People jump to new strains, and before you know it, after a while they're back. I mean, this is coming from a forum side of things, so I'm not talking about the wide world, but watching people grow the new strains, and then after a few, they end up back with some older strains or whatever. But you see where I'm going with it. It's longevity in business.
You know,
if you want to do it right, you should be producing good quality. Good quality will return custom.
I feel like I see where you're going with it, Kino. You know, maybe I'm going a different direction. Hopefully not. But the weed market is new now, right? How do I put this? Especially in the U.S., Oklahoma, and all these different states that are legalizing. It's a freaking gold rush. Everyone's going gangbusters. And I keep thinking, be careful what you wish for, because 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 years from now, like you said, things are going to settle down, and there's going to be the professionals in the scene. And those professionals are going to be big, small, medium, you know, all different things. That's what she said. And how do I put it? They are going to have a kind of different market in front of them. They're going to have a more established kind of customer base, customers that have been with them for 5 or 10 years, as opposed to now first-time customers, second-time customers, but most of the time, and then many of them don't ever return. You know, 5 years from now, you're going to have people like Dave's not here, who are super fucking loyal customers. They bought every single pack you've had for 15 years. They will know if you started to use fake runts, or they'll know if you've started to use the fake hype shit or whatever else. Like, people will know. I guess where I'm getting with all of this is that people will know when you're bullshitting. Right now, people don't necessarily know when you're bullshitting because everything's happening so fast.
Yeah.
So if someone comes along and F2s some cool shit, it'll take a little while for people to figure that out. It might take 6 months or a year, because, you know, it takes 4 months to grow flower, even up it tomorrow, right? That's assuming it's, you know, a polyhybrid.
And not just that, Fumidor, so many more people are coming in. Everything is happening fast, right. But think of all the markets that are opening up right now. You just mentioned Oklahoma. We have what? Yeah, somebody say F1. Oh boy. Yeah, perfect.
That's how we summon Pete. I just took up that joint. That's how we summon Pete on my show.
Yeah, there's markets opening up. And
that QI buzz.
Something.
Yeah, exactly.
The point is, though, you want new market. If it's new, you want
that's what I'm saying.
Survival of the fittest, and that's what it should be.
Protect the new people coming in by giving them information, real information.
Yeah.
Like, and right now, the ones coming in, it's just like, oh, this guy says he has runts. Okay. We'll run with that.
And we'll grow it, and we'll know 2 or 3 grows of people doing it. We'll know. The point is, it's survival of the fittest, or I don't know if that's the right way. It's natural selection almost within companies. This goes to any industry on the planet. It could go into the food industry. Yeah, you've got your giants, but if someone serves consistently good food for 5 years in a row, they're going to grow. It's just the way it works. We were talking about it on, I don't know whose show was on, about the barbecue. Talking about, I can't remember. Anyway, what I'm saying is that's sort of needed, I think. Trying to regulate it too early allows the bigger players to use their money to regulate it. Let it regulate itself naturally. Let the fakers and let the people ripping people off get found out, which they will, and let the longevity. And, you know, the small guys will be the ones to benefit from that. The smaller guys that are doing it properly will be the ones to grow organically over 5 years, rather than when you bring in regulations. I mean, I'm no expert in this field, but money talks. If I want to create a different version of a fast food restaurant now, I've got no chance of doing it if I'm trying to imitate what they're doing. And effectively, everyone's trying to sell the same thing here, trying to sell strains of seeds. You want a natural selection process. You want people to get found out. Only way to do that is to have a bit of a wild west. It's evolution of an industry. For me, the evolution of this industry needs to be a bit wild west, and eventually the saloons that were better back in them days are probably still, I don't know, like over here we've got certain pub chains that are still around because they've done well and they've had the right attitude from the 18th century. It's the ones that weren't, and the ones that were selling you half a pint of water and half a pint of beer that are no longer around.
Spoons.
But
yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, but again, how long has the Wild Wild West been going for? It's been going for quite some time. I think the danger also with it, I mean, I get where you're coming from, and I hear it. And what I think is interesting, though, and what we're trying to try and prevent is too much of the bullshit, like this is runts, and it isn't, getting out there where it's mislabeled, because it's just muddying it more and more and more. By letting it go for too long, you kind
We're
of
stopping
just
progress.
It's muddying this water so much now. It's compounding the issue. I think it's the point. Yeah.
Yeah, it will drive people away. It will piss people off. I get that.
I was going to say, then again, most of our genetics are not very diverse at all. Most of the cannabis genetics are extremely bottlenecked. I mean, I've heard any number of different stories about how when you do kind of DNA sequencing or whatever, the plants are basically inbred. Like even, excuse me, so to speak, Afghan versus I'm going to cough here. Afghan versus sativas, blah, blah, blah. Like there's very little genetic variance. I mean, they even look visually the same, right? They can interbreed really easily. Like we've culled most of the real genetic variants, and so now we're like licensing little scraps. There's that too, no?
It turns out there's only 4 people we owe money to. It's actually a really easy task.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah. These 4 guys go, yeah, I'm all for this.
Yeah, that's it.
Quick, pass us the Yop catalogue. And I tell you what, guys, on that note, we've been running for 2 hours with the show. We're going to kick it in. We'll keep it going for a little bit longer on the after show. So if anybody currently in chat would like to dive in and jump in, and too shy to be a part of the live public broadcast, there's the link. You're more than welcome to jump in.
When is the ritual abuse for the losers?
That'll probably happen in the
probably every day. Don't you watch the shows? Where you been?
And if you do like the show and you do feel like you'd like to contribute towards it, there is a Patreon page. I'll just post the link there. Go ahead, feel free to subscribe. Questions and that, we're still working this out, but yeah, it'd be great. So yeah, feel free to join in. A big thank you to the panel for taking part in the debate. Really big thanks to the judges for stepping up. That was really appreciated. Kino, Fumi, Duckweed, thank you so much. In terms of for the affirmative losers, Raptor and GMF, thank you so much for taking part. It was really good. I think we've definitely stimulated some good thoughts and some good discussion points. And of course, to the winning team, yeah, how it's done, Mr. Bagseed, Lefty's Farm,
What spoils do you get?
Me. The lamenting of the women.
You got Swedish bikini models on the side. Huh? Swedish bikini models, yeah? Yeah? Oh, yeah.
They'll take
Awesome.
2. So, yeah, on that note, and to chat, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and we shall see
Thank you for
all.
bribing the judges, by the way. That was great.
Yeah,
Right on.
but like a treat. Yeah, if you could, checks in the mail. Don't cash it from too high up because it's going to fucking bounce.
And seriously, a big thanks to chat for being even interested
knew there was
in this
something
kind of
to
nerdy, debate or academic format of a debate. So thank you very much for being interested in this.